especially as a man, I think you need to have a vision and you need to have a plan and how you're going to make that happen. Now, the plan is probably going to have some adjusting along the way. But it hasn't worked for me personally with the whole not knowing what I'm doing.
Well, that's exactly it. There needs to be some clarity. There needs to be at least something in your heart that it's going to guide you. And then hopefully logic prevails and also keeps you on the straight and narrow, so to speak. I know I use a lot of analogies and euphemisms, man, but
Mm-hmm.
that's just kind of the Vinceisms. um, However, okay, so like having that understanding and coming in, so like there's again, I talked about the bifurcation of society, men versus women, and all of that, and those romantic relationships. We won't even get into all the other stuff. It's just there's just too much. However, this younger generation, I mean, there's a lot of kids who are really frustrated, especially young men. You hear in the news all the time that, we got 30, 35-year olds that are virgins and have never dated. And, and which is, I mean, in all honesty, I mean, I think the virgin concept is cool. It's like, I wish somebody would have explained it to me a lot better. The sex education aspect of it, because of all the chaos that I got myself into, chasing vagina. However, but there seems to be like this drop off. There's all these other problems, like the family's falling apart, and again, it's just way too much. But if you were to be talking to a young guy, 25, 26, just out of college, getting started in his career, what kind of advice would you give, homie, and in regards to relationships and whatnot? I mean, would the intent question come up, right?
Well, at 25, you are
Better yet,
finally you are.
what would you tell yourself at 25?
Oh, if I okay, that's a different answer. Because at 25, I mean, it's actually, you know what? Now that I think about it, it's not all that different. I would
I
tell
didn't think it
myself,
would be.
look, I'd say, Chris, you are just now barely a biological adult. Okay, the idea that, legally you're an adult at 18 is fucking stupid. Okay, you still got 7 more years before your brains are fully developed, right? This is why anybody that has kids that become adults and they say you get your kids back when they're about 25, it's because their brains are finally developed, right? Up until that point, they're just fucking talking lizards, right? That's
Right.
all teenagers are. They're humans, they're talking lizards. So I would tell my 25-year-old self, said, look, man, you spend the next 5, 6 years figuring out who you are and building your empire. Forget about women. Like, if you want to go on a date or whatever, but no, this idea of getting into something, I kind of like this old school thinking of go out, become the man that you're going to be in the world, and then invite, become the king of your kingdom, whatever that looks like. And then invite your queen in, go find her and invite her in. Don't try and build this at the same time. Like, figure out who you are, what you're about, what's important, get your values dialed in, get your code locked in, right? Learn how to be in integrity. And then, when you're around, maybe you've had a few at bats, you're 30, you're 31, then you start thinking, all right, now I'm going to start finding somebody. By the time, you're mid 30s, early 30s, 33, 34, you've got her, you've got it figured out. Now you're ready to go, right? If I'd have done that, I would have saved myself 20 years or more.
See, I'm right along there with you, because if I had learned the skill set to be a little bit more stoic and a little bit more virtuous, and actually taking the time to develop myself instead of chasing beer and vagina, things probably. And again, I can't say that I regret. And I wrote about my regrets in my 4 step, um but what I'm getting at is that it's like, I'm here now, so what am I going to do now?